Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Bernie Sanders, Crazy Bernie, has condemned the U.S. military strike on Soleimani, the world's top terrorist. Think of it, the world's top terrorist. And we're having people like Nancy Pelosi. It's a real genius. Do you believe that one? Nancy.
Wow.
Nervous Nancy.
That crowd.
But here's the guy who slaughtered and butchered civilians all over, and military.
Soleimani.
His way. And we have Bernie and Nancy Pelosi. We have them all. They're all trying to say, how dare you take him out that way? You should get permission from Congress. You should come in and tell us what you want to do. You should come in and tell us so that we can call up the fake news that's back there and we can leak it. That's a lot of corruption back there, folks.
I wanted to let the entire thing play. First of all, there's so many things happening in this clip that we probably could do the entire show. Why is the president of the United States incapable of speaking as though he's not drunk? He constantly speaks as though he's been on a bender for, I don't know, in perpetuity. He's been on a bender since day one. Soleimani. I mean, come on, man. But that's the least of the things wrong with this clip. Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. Today is Friday. What is it? The January 10th, I think. Let's look at this calendar. January 10th, 2020. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's dig in right away. The Trump administration the Trump campaign rather, is starting to target Bernie Sanders more and more and more. Several emails have gone out warning against the dangers of Crazy Bernie, is what they call him. And tying Bernie Sanders to Nancy Pelosi because, you know, that's just the tried old true tactic of the Republicans. It's always been the Obama Pelosi Schumer machine that's coming after the Republicans. And now they're preemptively saying the Bernie Pelosi machine. And even more so disturbing is the unbelievable anger that you could hear, the visceral anger that you could hear in the audience in support of their dear leader against Bernie Sanders, against Nancy Pelosi, who, I mean, whatever. Okay, fine. You want to draw them. You want to tie those two together. That's fine. If that helps you out. But you can hear, I mean, there's a certain matter of fact, let me just play this one part again, and you can hear the visceral hatred that is in the voices of Donald Trump supporters.
Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi.
Listen to them.
Do you believe that one? Nancy. Nervous Nancy.
You know, you could just hear in that crowd. You can visually, let me say it like this. You can visualize what side of the civil rights movement this crowd would have been on. I mean, they have the same segregationist energy of the white people who were yelling at Ruby Ridges as she tried to go to school, to integrate school. You can hear it just in the voices. You don't even have to see their faces. The same energy. So they're attacking Bernie Sanders now. Their anger and their vitriol is ramping up to be even more intense than it has ever been, right? Because they feel like there's a threat to their dear leader because he has been impeached, and they are willing to go to war. They're willing to bring about the second coming of Christ, which basically means the end of the world, just to support or to find some logical, illogical consistency for them, some way for them to continue to support their dear leader. And I keep referring to him as that because this has always been a cult, but the fervor of it is rising even higher. It even more intense. Listen to this clip. I'm going to shift gears. I'm going to come back to what he was talking about with Soleimani, because like I said, this clip is so dense with so many troubling tropes that I could talk about it the entire episode. But I want you to understand the nature of the cult. I know you know it. I know you know it. Just bear with me. Indulge me.
What is something that you believe the president has done well?
I'm not really sure. I just support him.
I'm sorry. It's one of those mornings. I mean, this was a guy from the same rally that I was playing the first clip from. This is beyond. Let me tell you how far gone this is. If Donald Trump ceases to be Donald Trump, right? They're not there for Donald Trump. Let's start here. The crowds are not there to. They're not there because of Donald Trump. They're there because what Donald Trump represents, and what he represents, it's so vitriolic. It is so deeply. What is there's a word, and I just can't think of it right now. But it is to anger and bitterness what prurient is to sexuality, right? I remember the court case where the basically defining pornography as something that appeals to the base prurient nature. There's a word, and it escapes me. So whatever, but that's what Donald Trump represents, right? It's bigger than Donald Trump now. That's the thing. We think that this is going to end with Donald Trump, but no, this is bigger than Donald Trump. The symbolism of that Donald Trump fulfills. If Donald Trump ever has a come to Jesus moment where he changes fundamentally how he does things, and he changes the anger that he appeals to, and the bitterness, and just the sheer bigotry of his entire being, if he stops that, that is the only thing Donald Trump can do to make this audience turn on him. And I bring that up because it's not about his wins. It's not about his failures. It's not about his bigotry. It's not about his oafishness. It's not about Donald Trump. It's about that thing in society that he is willing to appeal to. I mean, that's what it is. And so this crowd, this anger, they will turn on Trump if he doesn't continue to feed it to them. And he has no problem feeding it. He's never going to change. This is why it's a match made in hell. But the thing is that if there's a second person who can do it just as good or better than Donald Trump, this crowd, this problem continues. Now, very briefly to the comments on Soleimani. It's a hard shift here, but I want to cover this clip because I have another clip from last night that I have to discuss. You'll never find a time in American propaganda where we don't label anyone who falls outside of our approved political and economic structure. You'll never find a time where we haven't and won't call them terrorists. That's our MO. That's what we do. We label everything that we disagree with as terrorism. This is how we got away with everything we've gotten away with since 2003, since the war on terror, actually 2001. We just label them a terrorist and we could throw them all in Guantanamo Bay. We label them a terrorist and we can get away with enhanced interrogation and rendition. We label them a terrorist and we could just make them disappear, right? We label them a terrorist and we could drop a bomb on them. We can drone them to death. We could drone a 16-year-old American citizen who is on the battlefield, and because we label them a terrorist. We can do anything we want because we label people terrorists. Well, guess what? Iran just labeled the Trump administration and his generals as terrorists, right? So if they are holding to that definition, and hey, folks, guess what? A lot of people on the international stage believe this. Hell, they are Donald Trump. The way the American presidency is set up, they can drop bombs on anyone they want to without any authorization from the Congress. They could rain down terror. They can blow up funerals. They could blow up weddings. And nobody does anything about it? Yeah. So be careful throwing this label of terrorist around. I'm preaching to the choir. Because our actions, quite honestly, define America as the biggest purveyor of terrorism on the global stage. Again, the same thing that we've talked about before. We see ourselves as the Avengers. Remember that meme we discussed? We see ourselves as the Avengers. The world sees us as the Empire. And we're so careful. We're so careful to, callous and cavalier. The propaganda machine is careful to label everyone that we disagree with as a terrorist. But too many Americans are callous and cavalier, and we just readily accept that. Oh, he was a terrorist. Okay, that justifies it. Okay. We could drop a bomb on him because he's a terrorist. Meanwhile, look at our track record. But that's besides the point, because we know that, you know that. His audience at some point, listen, they're not all imbecilic. At some point, they have questioned that themselves, but what do? And this is why it's such a problem. This is why we have such a fight ahead of us. This is why I'm glad that they're afraid of Bernie Sanders, because we have to fight this with the movement. But they know full well the lies that are coming out of this man's mouth. And you know what? They don't love him because of him. They don't accept his lies because of him. They don't accept his oafishness because they're just so enamored with him. They don't accept the military, the propaganda that he's spreading just because of him. They accept it because what he represents is that part of American society that is deeply rooted in bitterness, anger, hatred, and venom. And if he ever departs from that, they will eat him alive too.
Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
And here we go. It's time for our patron party one more time for this week. Special thank you to all of our newest patrons, and a special thank you to everyone who has been increasing their pledges. Want to welcome aboard to Robert Monroe Jr. Thank you, sir, for becoming a patron. The Griff, Kevin Griffin, thank you for increasing your pledge. Special thank you to one of our newest patrons, Stacy Peckham. Thank you, ma'am, for becoming a patron. We really appreciate it. Adam, thank you for increasing your pledge like 5-fold. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Timothy Apple, thank you for increasing your pledge. Duncan Secor, thank you for increasing your pledge. And Mike Quick, thank you for increasing your pledge. Listen, if I miss anyone, because you guys, there are so many people, you all are increasing your pledges and so many new patrons. Thank you so much. If I missed you, please don't hesitate to come yell at me on Twitter or send me a really mean, nasty message on Patreon so I can remember to find it and give you your props. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Last night I did a live stream for an event here in Atlanta. I tested out the equipment that I purchased, and we streamed for like 2 hours on battery power. It was dope. The Wi-Fi signal was great. The camera was great. And the event was even doper. I had a chance to listen to a guy by the name of Desmond Meade. He led the fight for Amendment 4 in Florida, where they restored the voting rights of 1.4 million former felons. They call themselves returned citizens, people who have come back into the population, and they have done their time. They have fulfilled their commitment. They have every aspect of the commitment. And while I was streaming that event, I was taking note of, one, how dope the equipment is that I just purchased, right? But also, more importantly, clearly more importantly than that, the power of organizing, the power of movements, the power of people, of ordinary people, to get together and change the situation, right? I mean, to change their situation. And I'm so impressed by organizers. I mean, that's where it's at, man. That's where it has always been. And, one of the things that happens is media, what we do in media is flashy, right? I've got the music, I've got the mix, I've got the patron party, you know what I mean? It's flashy. And what we do on social media, it's flashy. And we get a lot of attention, and, we like to grandstand, and we get celebrities to retweet us. And, oh man, guess who's following me? The Incredible Hulk follows me. Literally. The Incredible Hulk follows me on Twitter. But the people who are actually changing society, are people like you, my listeners, who do organizing. You all are so much more important to this democracy than any media personality will ever be. All of us combined. All the social media activists and social media celebrities and all this stuff. You can put us all in a room. And you can synthesize us into some type of commodity, something with value. And every single one of us across the face of this planet, every celebrity, every media, independent media talking head like me, and none of us would add up to the value of 5 really dope organizers. Period. That's what I saw last night at the event. It was fantabulous, if I could just be ridiculous with my words. Special shout out to Kamal K. Franklin of the Community Builders Movement. Hang on. I want to get that right. I don't want to. Hang on. It was late. Here it is. Community Movement Builders. I knew it was those 3 words. And you can go to his website, communitymovementbuilders.org, and check out the work that he's doing here in Atlanta. They brought up Desmond Meade. It was an event that was to be hosted by my homegirl, Noah. You guys send some good love and some prayers or whatever you do. Just send love to my homegirl, Noah. And just you can check out her timeline on Twitter, and you can find out everything that's happening with her. But she was supposed to host it last night, and she was unable to. I was going to support her to just to stream because she asked me to do it. And, she asked me to go somewhere, and I'm going to go. And but even though she wasn't there, I still went, and I'm so glad I did, because again, it's just a reminder that the real people who deserve patronage, the real people who deserve your support, are the organizers. Which is why I haven't had a chance to move on it. I'm working on another project. I'm always working on a project. Yes, always. I'm working on a project that I'll introduce someone to you guys really soon. But one of the things that's on the back burner that I definitely want to do is to transform Progressive Army into a centralized volunteer hub where we take you, people in the audience who are not already currently doing things. I know a lot of you are already doing a lot of dope organizing and volunteering. But we would take the audience and make sure that you not only know how to organize and to volunteer, but just we'll find good causes around the country, and we'll send, even if it's just 5 people, to go help and support the people who are already doing the organizing. Right. I think that's one of the number one things that we can do. And I hope that will start to spread across independent media, because what we do is cool. What we do is flashy, and we have created large audiences. And I think it's time for us to all, like, boots on the ground. That's why I actually love the name Progressive Army still, because it represents boots on the ground. And I think that's one of the number one things that we can do to help the organizers that are doing the damn thing. And again, to dovetail this conversation, right? I was able to record this last night because of you, the patrons who were supporting me, right? But as I sat there and I'm watching and I'm listening to how they restored the voting rights to 1.4 million people just in the state of Florida, and they did it through movement organizing. They did it through some sophisticated polling and some making some decisions on, they did it really smartly. Like, it was a really calculated, precise strike that they made. But at the core of it, We're organizers. You don't win elections without organizers. You don't win elections. You don't win constitutional amendments, ballot initiatives. You don't win without people who go door to door and knock on doors. Nothing changes in this country without the people who are knocking on doors. Nothing. And so while people like me, my friend Sam, David Packman, Kyle Kalinske, my homeboy Tim Black, what's up, Tim? While all of us in the independent media, the whole TYT crew, while all of us get the flashiness and we get the retweets and we get all of the glitz and the glamour of independent media, such as it is, it's not, we're not mainstream media, right? But we do get some level of notoriety. The truth of the matter is we need to start pushing that notoriety to the organizers who are actually changing. And I'm not saying we relinquish our platforms. What I'm saying is that we use our platforms to support organizers. Simple as that. I didn't mean, this is honestly just a part of the patron party still. I didn't mean to go this far. But again, shout out to Desmond Meade, who led the initiative, the ballot initiative in Florida, Amendment 4, which restored the voting rights to 1.4 million returned citizens. Shout out to Kamal K. Franklin of the community. Y'all got to forgive me. I'm so dyslexic at times with words and phrases. It's community movement builders. Shout out to Kamal Franklin of Community Movement Builders. I kept wanting to say community builder movement, but it's communitymovementbuilders.org. Go check them out. And wherever you are, whatever city you're listening to me in, doesn't matter, whatever country you're listening to me from, support some organizers. And sometimes you could support them just by going to the event and helping them knock on doors. Yeah. All right. Let's get to, actually, no, I don't want to go back to politics yet. I want to tell you a funny story. It's going to be really brief, and then I'll get back to the news. So yesterday I'm in an electronic store, trying to get a piece to my camera so that I could do the live stream. And this guy came to help me out. And when I tell you his beard was so long and so full, I'm like, this is fake. And I had to take a double take. And he just started laughing because he was like, it's real. Like preemptively, before he even said hello, he was like, it's real. Because in my mind, I looked at this beard. I'm like, there's no way in the world this beard is real. And so we laughed about it. He's like, yeah, people ask me all the time, blah, 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 blah. And, I'm just sitting there rubbing my beard like I am now. You can hear, right? I'm rubbing my beard. And he said, have you ever thought about growing out your beard? And I'm like, I have grown out. This is me growing out my beard.
I take a backseat to no member of this body when it comes to defending the president. This resolution offers no criticism of the president, no critique. It doesn't criticize the president's attack on Soleimani. Matter of fact, this resolution doesn't even say Soleimani's name in it. Yet it does articulate our very robust basis for self-defense, at times even preemptory self-defense to defend our troops. And it also articulates our non-delegable duty as members of the United States Congress to speak to matters of war and peace. I represent more troops than any other member of this body. I buried one of them earlier today at Arlington. And that sergeant died a patriot and a hero. If the members of our armed services have the courage to go and fight and die in these wars, as Congress, we ought to have the courage to vote for them or against them. And I think it's ludicrous to suggest that we are impairing the troops from doing their job by not doing our job articulated in the Constitution to speak to these matters of war and peace. I support the president. Killing Soleimani was the right decision, but engaging in another forever war in the Middle East would be the wrong decision, and that's why I'm voting for this resolution, and I yield back.
Oh, Representative Matt Gaetz. I believe he's from Florida. And yeah, I'm pretty sure he's from Florida. Let me look. Yes, the 1st District of Florida. And he thought for a hot second that he would be able to do something principled, like defend the Constitution, by insisting that the president has to use authorization of use of military force, right? That the president would have to do what the presidents in past should have done, come to get authorization for war from the Congress. Matt Gaetz thought that he could actually do something principled and couch it in support for Donald Trump and get away with it. See, this is what I was talking about in the first segment. You cannot, you simply can, and actually, before I go there, this is what I've been talking about with Ben Shapiro and how his audience is eating him alive. You cannot play around with a certain level of fixation, a certain level of vitriol. You can't play around with fire and not get burned. My dad used to say it like this: you can appease an alligator all day long, hoping that it won't eat you. But after you fed all of your enemies to it, it's inevitably going to eat you. Something like that. I mean, that was the essence. I'm putting a lot more words in there. But basically, you can't play with this thing and expect to survive it. Because when you play with bigotry, when you play with dogma, when you play with the cult of personality, and you try to have a moment like Matt Gaetz tried to have a moment to say, okay, we're going to put principle over the cult of personality, they have turned and started eating this man alive. Alive. I mean, if you look at the tweet that he sent out sharing that video, I mean, one after the other, Republicans, conservatives, Trump supporters are tearing him a new. I mean, it's hilarious. They're calling him a turncoat. They're calling him a traitor. They're calling him everything because he dares to do something that Donald Trump doesn't want him to do. And he thought that he could get away with it by saying, I support the president. Nobody supports the president more than me. But I'm going to do this because I disagree. You know, this is a spot where I think the president is getting this wrong. And oh, goodness, that's exactly the problem. The problem is that when you have this cult, you cannot say anything that you disagree with this man on. You can't. Donald Trump can't. And this is what I was trying to say earlier. Donald Trump can't even turn on what he is saying now. Do you think Donald Trump could come out and say, we're not going to build the wall? No, they will turn on him. I'm telling you, what Donald Trump represents is really what's driving this. Donald Trump tapped into the psyche. He tapped into a portion of the American spirit that is driven by pure hatred and bigotry. And if he ever turns on that, then the people will turn on Donald Trump the way they're now turning on Matt Gaetz. All right. Anyone who's been listening to this show for any amount of time, you know I have a strict policy against anything that remotely sounds like a conspiracy theory. There are enough conspiracy theory. I want to make sure I don't use any ableist language here. There are enough adherents to conspiracy theories on the left for you to get your fix somewhere else. I've just taken a hard line against it. Anything that remotely smells like a conspiracy theory, I stay away from it. But the universe is testing me today. It's testing this theory. It's testing this hard line policy against conspiracy theories. The surveillance video taken from outside Jeffrey Epstein's jail cell on the day of his first apparent suicide attempt has been permanently deleted because video from the wrong floor was saved due to a clerical error, federal prosecutors claim. This from MSNBC. Jeffrey Epstein. The video from outside his jail cell. First, the cops who were supposed to be watching him weren't watching him. And now the surveillance video from his first attempt has been deleted because of a clerical error. It's a very difficult thing for me to come to this conclusion. I know that I am not saying anything that most of you don't already believe, but you just have to understand I have had a firm no conspiracy theory policy for the last 5 years. And it's with great regret that I must conclude today's show by saying Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself. I will see you Monday. Take care, everybody.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.